Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name Ahmad Miruddin Muhammad Asri, Matric I8203-254. Okay, the topic of our presentation today is decision making. We will start off the introduction and other subtopic. Okay. The decision making is the essence of management. All the managers are tasked with making decision. Making decision is one of the main activities for manager. Okay, membuat keputusan tu adalah intipati dalam pengurusan yang mana semua pengurus atau manager ditugaskan untuk membuat keputusan. They make decision from the simplest and most routine one. Example, purchasing of raw material and granting leave to an employee and other. Okay, membuat keputusan adalah salah satu aktiviti utama bagi seorang pengurus. Mereka membuat keputusan dari yang paling sederhana dan rutin. Contoh, membeli bahan mentah, memberi cuti kepada pekerja dan lain-lain. To more complicated and unique ones, example, expanding the business, introducing a new product line and the other. Okay. Hingga yang lebih rumit dan unik dalam membuat keputusan ni, contoh macam kita mengembangkan perniagaan, memperkenalkan barisan produk, perkenalkan barisan produk baru dan lain-lain. Senior managers particularly make complex decisions relate to organizational matters, such as entering new business. The higher the rank of the rank manager, the more important and wide-ranging the decision that he or she undertakes. Overall, good decision-making skills are critical to organizational effectiveness. Okey, pengurus kanan khususnya membuat keputusan yang kompleks berkaitan dengan masalah organisasi seperti memasuki perniagaan baru. Okey, semakin tinggi kedudukan pangkat seorang pengurus, maka semakin penting dan luas keputusan yang perlu diambilnya. Secara keseluruhan, kemahiran membuat keputusan yang baik sangat penting untuk berkesanan organisasi. So bermakna kalau dalam decision making ataupun dalam membuat keputusan, kita perlu ada skill. Dia bukan main buat je, semua orang boleh buat, tapi skill dalam membuat keputusan tu adalah penting. Kalau skill tu bagus, maka keberkesanan pada organisasi tu pun bagus. Okay, kita pergi pada definition ya. The definition. Okay, decision making is the cognitive process of selecting choice by identifying a decision, gathering information and analyzing alternative resolution. Okay, membuat keputusan adalah proses kognitif memilih pilihan dengan mengawal pasti keputusan. Lepas tu mengumpulkan maklumat dan menganalisis resolusi alternatif. Okay. Trewata and Newport defines decision making process. Decision making involves the selection of a course of action from among two or more possible alternatives in order to arrive at a solution for a given problem. Trewata dan Newport mendefinisikan proses membuat keputusan sebagai perbuatan keputusan melibatkan pemilihan tindakan dari antara dua atau lebih alternatif yang mungkin untuk mencapai penyelesaian untuk masalah tertentu. So, kalau ada masalah tertentu ataupun ada masalah, kita kena membuat tindakan atau membuat keputusan lebih daripada dua. So, jangan buat satu. So kita ada plan kita. Kita ada orang kata apa, uh, uh, perancangan dalam nak menyelesaikan masalah tu. Kalau satu masalah buat satu, orang kata apa, membuat keputusan satu je, so belum tentu masalah tu boleh selesai. Tapi kita kena ambil orang kata apa, dia kena ada skill lah, membuat keputusan tu lebih daripada dua atau lebih. So kira bila ada bila masalah tu yang tadi tu tak boleh settle, kita pakai rancangan yang lain, ataupun rancangan kedua atau rancangan ketiga, plan keempat macam tu. The decision of the topic will be further discussed by other presenter.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Syazani bin Sa'dun, number matric I1830342. I would like to present a nature of decision making. Number 1 is goal-oriented process. Decision making is a goal-oriented process. It aims at achieving certain specific goals of the organization. Number 2 is selection process. Decision making is a selection process in which best alternative course of action is chosen from the given alternative course of action. Number 3 is continuous process. It is continuous process because a manager is required to take decisions continuously for different activities. Number 4 is art as well as science. Decision making is considered both an art and a science. Number 5 is responsibilities of manager. Decision making is the responsibility of managers at different levels of management. Number 6 is positive as well as negative. Decision making can be both positive and negative. It may be positive to perform certain activities or negative not to perform certain activities. The last one is future course of action. Decisions are made for future course of action based on the basis of past experience and present conditions.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. My name is Raja Nur Nadirah binti Raja Nur Ahmad Syam. My matric number is I18203211. So today I will continue the next subtopic in this chapter, which is factor influencing decisions in organization. Okay, there are two types factors influencing in making a decision, which is individual differences and organizational constraint. In individual differences, we have personality and attitudes, while in organizational constraint, we have performance evaluation, reward system, and rules and regulations. Okay, individual differences. Okay. According to Al-Patani Patli 2015, personality is a mirror of what you do and say. Essentially, your personality defines who are you. Your behavior reflects your personality and informs how different you are from others. A common saying in field of personality psychology is some things change, some things stay the same. Studies on personality have confirmed that personality does influence work behavior and performance, including the way people make decisions. So, as mentioned, personality is measured in various facets, such as conscientiousness, self-esteem, type A and type B personality. So, in this, in the first type, which is personality, I will give some example, not some, but one example in personality that influencing decision making, which is type A personality and type B personality, which is we have learned about it at chapter 3 about personality. So, in type A personality, someone who is impatient strives to do more than one task at once and cannot cope with leisure. This type of person may make it a point to finish whatever task at hand so that the deadline can be met. No relax for them, and they define the success with the number of tasks complete. While in type B personality, someone who is patient, calm, easygoing. This type of person tries to finish one task after another and may decide to do the task that is more important first rather than complete everything at once. They're concerned about quality, not quantity. So, when we're talking about personality, type A personality and type B personality in making the decision, there are differences between them. So, when type A personality make a decision, they not think what the best for the future, but they think for that current time. While type B personality make a decision for the future, for their future. So, if bad if bad thing if bad thing happens, they can cope the problem, but the type A personality cannot cope the problem from what they have decided before. Okay, continue with attitude. Attitude. According to Book Management Principle version 1.0 2012, an attitude refers to our opinions, beliefs, and feelings about aspects of our environment. At work, two job attitudes have the greatest potential to influence how we behave. These are job satisfaction and organizational commitment. While in book Organizational Behavior 2nd edition 2017 says that there are two types of attitude, explicit and implicit. Explicit attitudes seem to be slow, controlled, relatively effortful, conscious and international. While implicit attitude are quick, intuitive, automatic, relatively effortless, unintentional, and can be operate outside of conscious awareness. Okay, we go to the next subtopic, which is organizational constraint. Okay, organizational constraint. Decision making is also influenced by organizational constraint. So, the first subtopic, which is we said that decision making influenced by personality and attitude. So, that's for the individual. Okay, individu. So, this subtopic is about organizational constraint. So, organizational constraint. Decision making is also influenced by organizational constraint, performance, evaluation, reward system, rules, and regulations. Okay. So, performance evaluation. Okay, performance evaluation. The manager's decision is based on his or her top manager. For example, if a top manager evaluates his or her managers based on the quantity of work, then these managers will decide that quantity is the priority. The managers will then make decisions that favor quantity of production over other factors. So, for example, in COVID-19 situation in world, things like face mask, set of personal protective equipment, PPE, test, swab test, and hand sanitizer are very important now compared to a few years ago. So, as a top manager at the factory that produce these health needs has decided and tell his or her manager that the factory will increase the quantity production of health needs and sell it to the government and other private hospital that need it. So, the manager has ordered his employee to double up the product production. So that is performance evaluation where the manager ataupun the top manager will make a decision to double up the production. Okay, next is reward system. Decision making that is influenced by organization's reward system refers to the decision being made for the reward expected from the organization. Thus, these decisions are in favor of personal gains. For example, a Nelofa scarf company who always do a sales every month, like recently they do the 11.11 sales. So the company tell the manager to do closing or secure customer as much as he or she can do. If the manager and its team can do over the company's target on that day, so the manager and its team can get a reward from the company. Okay, rules and regulation. Decision by managers that follow stipulated rules and regulation in the organization. The rules and regulation are created to guide manager in decision making and prevent them from making mistakes. In turn, the manager will ensure that decisions made do not contradict the rules and regulation outlined. For example, the organizational policy stipulates that customers must be served within 10 minutes of their arrival. If employees fail to follow this rule, they will be subject to disciplinary actions such as a salary cut. The employees are unhappy as they feel that this is rigid, unfair and harsh. In this situation, a decision has already been fixed for such an incident as stated by the rules and regulation. This also limits the manager's creativity and freedom in making decisions or in using a different approach with the employees. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. Okay, today I would like to discuss with you guys decision making process. There are 6 steps in making decisions process. Okay, first, identifying opportunities and diagnosing problems. The first step of decision making is identifying opportunities and diagnosing problems. An opportunity is a special type of problem that requires community resources in order to improve company performance. Okay, maksudnya pada tahap pertama dalam decision making adalah mengenal pasti peluang dan menilai masalah peluang. Peluang adalah jenis masalah khas yang perlukan sumber daya untuk tingkatkan organisasi. Contoh masalah yang berlaku, tahap perolehan pekerja yang tinggi, pengurangan keuntungan terima ataupun peningkatan kesejahteraan di tempat bekerja. Okay. Bila masalah kita dah dapat tahu, so kita akan cari punca masalah. Ini disebabkan kita perlu kumpulkan maklumat, cari sebab-sebab yang berkemungkinan dan fokus sebab yang paling utama. Contohnya, seorang pengurus, dia perhatikan tahap perolehan pekerja dia yang tinggi dulunya untuk menilai masalah. Kemudian cuba fahamkan kenapa berlaku. Okay. Mungkin ada sebab-sebab yang berlaku tu, contohnya dia tak puas hati dengan kerja yang mencabar, tekanan kerja dan sebagainya. Hal ini perlu menilai masalah sebelum kita selesaikan. Kalau pengurus anggap masalah tu boleh diselesaikan dengan kenaikan gaji, pengurus tu mungkin dia betul-betul tak akan dapat selesaikan masalah tu dengan cara yang sepatutnya. Okay. Yang kedua ialah generating alternatives. The second step is to generate possible solutions to the problem based on the perceived causes. 3 categories to consider when looking for non-decision alternatives. First, solution for the same decision made previously. Second, decision option not pursued for the same decision made previously. Third, solution alternatives for the same decision made for a different situation. Okay. Langkah kedua ni, apa yang dimaksudkan kat sini adalah setelah masalah dapat dikenal pasti ataupun masalah dah dapat dinilai dengan betul, pengurus akan kembangkan pelbagai cara untuk selesaikan masalah dan mencapai objektif. Alternatif ini boleh jadi standard yang satu alternatif yang unik. Okay. Yang ketiga ialah evaluating alternatives. The third step in the decision-making process involves determining the value or adequacy of the alternatives generated. Okay. Yang ketiga ialah evaluating alternatives ataupun menilai alternatif. Okay. Langkah ketiga ni apa yang dimaksudkan? Dalam proses buat keputusan, pengurus perlu menilai alternatif tersebut dalam tentukan alternatif yang nak dihasilkan tu. Malah kriteria keputusan yang perlu nilai ni perlu nilai dengan betul seperti kualiti, manfaat, ketidakpastian dan risiko setiap alternatif supaya dapat buat keputusan yang tepat. Okay, yang keempat ialah making decisions. The fourth step is make the decision based on the findings and understand any risk involved. Okay. Yang keempat ialah buat keputusan berdasarkan penemuan dan kefahaman segala risiko yang ada. Okay. Dalam buat keputusan, ia adalah bahagian yang paling penting yang mana setelah kita nilai kelebihan dan kekurangan satu alternatif ni, pengurus ataupun kita akan dapat lihat dengan jelas yang mana jalan alternatif terbaik. Oleh itu, pentingnya buat keputusan yang dapat merealisasikan bukan sekadar hasilnya terbaik, tapi untuk beberapa tujuan yang buktikan kita punya alternatif ni boleh diterima. Okay. Yang kelima ialah implementing the decisions. The individuals who will be affected by the decision and their sensitivity, the ability and availability of the resources to carry out the implementation task. Okay. Implementing the decisions ni melaksanakan keputusan ataupun buat rancangan yang ditentukan siapa yang terlibat. When the decision has been reached, it's time to implement the decision. At this stage of implementation, the individual who will be affected by the decision and their sensitivity. So, seseorang individu ni akan terpengaruh dengan keputusan dan kepekaan mereka. Maksudnya, dalam melaksanakan keputusan yang baru mesti akan pengaruhi orang-orang dalam organisasi itu. Contohnya, pengurus akan buat pekerja dia faham dan terima keputusan untuk make sure keputusan itu berjaya. Bukan tu je. Kalau pekerja dia faham dan terima keputusan itu, diorang akan bagi 100% or 80% or 90% komitmen sepenuhnya dalam melaksanakan keputusan itu. And lastly, yang kedua ialah the ability and availability of the resource to carry out the implementation task. Okay, maksud dia kat sini, kemampuan dan adanya sumber untuk melaksanakan tugas. Pengurus perlu buat perancangan sumber yang betul. Pelaksanaan sesebuah keputusan berjaya dicapai bila mana sumber-sumber yang diperlukan tu dapat bentuk satu tugas. Penjadualan aktiviti merupakan bahagian yang penting dalam menjayakan pelaksanaan satu keputusan. Okay. Lastly is evaluating and monitoring results. The final steps of the decision-making process involve monitoring and evaluating the results. Evaluating and monitoring. Angka terakhir adalah proses buat keputusan yang melibatkan pemantauan dan penilaian hasilnya. Pengurus perlu nilai sejauh mana keputusan yang dibuat itu berjaya dengan baik. Penilaian hasil adalah penting dalam meningkatkan keputusan untuk kegunaan masa akan datang. So, kalau keputusan yang dibuat itu tak berkesan dan tak berjalan dengan baik, maka semua proses decision making kena buat dari awal semula. Okay, that's all from me. Terima kasih.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Hilmi Anwar bin Mat Sabri and my number matric I18203-206. Okay, today I want to present about individual discussion making. Okay, first introduction is individual discussion making is indeed an integral process in an organization. And number 2, perception is defined as a process by which individual organizers and interpret their sensory impression in order to give meaning to their environment. And number 3, people behavior is based on their perception of what reality is, not on reality itself. Alright, next. Okay. Factor influencer perception. Okay, first, the factor can reside in the perceiver, in the object or target being perceived, or in the context of the situation in which the perception is made. And number two, when an individual looks at a target and attempts to interpret what he or she sees, the interpretation is heavily influenced by a personal characteristic of the individual perceived. And number three, characteristic of the target that is being observed can affect what is perceived. Motion, sound, size, and other attributes of a target shape the way we see it. And therefore, the time at which an object or event is seen can influence attention, as can location, light, heat, or any numbers of situation factors. Okay, the next, the link between perception and discussion making. Okay, first, an individual in an organization make discussion and the quality of their final choice are less influenced by their perception. Although discussion making on next, the organization present circumstance to actions that will take the organization into the future. And number three, the awareness that a need for a discussion making exists, that a discussion needs to be made a perception issue. Next. Alright, how are discussion made? Alright, first, define the problem. And number two, identify the discussion criteria. And number three, allocate weight to the criteria. And number four, develop the alternative. And the five, select the best alternative. Next, intuition. First, intuition is when a high level of uncertainty exists. And number two, intuition, when variables are less scientifically predictable. And number three, when facts are limited. Four, when facts don't clear point the way to go. And number five, when ethically that are of little use. And number six, when there are several plausible alternative solutions from which to choose with good agreement for each. And number seven, and the last, when time is limited and there is pressure to come up with the right discussion. Okay, and last, importance of individual discussion making in organization. Okay, first, discussion effective is the outcome of the interaction between the shape and definition of problem as seen by participant. Next, this has been provided by languational research. Thus, an understanding of the cognitive abilities of individual is critical to the effectiveness of strategic discussion in organization. And number three, understanding the conceptual model used by individual is therefore vital both to the research attempting to understand the discussion process as well as the manager trying to evaluate the quality of ideas generation within the group. Right, thank you, and we go to the next presenter.
Okay. So I will continue with the case study. So the case study is from the textbook organizational behavior textbook. So I will read first the case study. Okay. Oh, you all can refer at page 240. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Team decision making. Amida is a very ambitious and hardworking corporate sales director. She aims to greatly enhance her team's productivity. To realize this objective, her main focus is to revamp the managerial decision making style. The first thing that Amida introduced to her 15-member team was a chart displaying all the decisions to be made and all the approaches to be used for different issues. Her intention was to enable her team to clearly see which issues were to be decided only by her, which were to be decided as a team, which were to be delegated, who to consult, and so on. Amida's approach was applied during every meeting. However, it yielded no result. Issues could not be resolved effectively, and her team members considered the approach to be ineffective. They felt like only Amida was making all the decisions and that they were not functioning as a team. Consequently, problems started to arise in the team as the member began to resent Amida's authoritarian style. Her team meetings slowly show decreases in participation, which Amida brushed aside. She thought that the team's absenteeism was merely due to personal matters. In subsequent meetings, some members lost the interest to contribute their ideas and suggestions, as they knew nothing would be considered seriously. Things became worse when the company's sales started to drop from time to time. However, Amida concluded that her team's poor performance was just due to the organization not being able to compete with other companies. As things worsened further, the team's members decided to highlight their grievances to Amida for the sake of the company. Amida should be made aware of what was actually going on and what had really caused the team to perform badly, thus jeopardizing the company's sales. During the following meeting, Amida was taken aback by her team's complaints about her approach, whereby the members felt she used her rank to make decisions rather than coming to decisions based on consensus. Amida was disappointed to know that there was plenty of dissatisfaction in her team because of her style. Even more upsetting was the team members' opinion that Amida does not listen to them and only follows her own judgment in every situation. After giving Amida feedback on her decision making style, the team members went through their checklist for pending and recent decisions. This time, Amida listened to her team members' suggestions carefully and they discussed them together. Fortunately, it turned out that this consensus decision making style worked better for the team members and they were happier with this new approach. The change of approach from authoritarian to consensus or consultative allowed the team to reach an agreement on critical decisions faster and reinforced the importance of allowing time for those decisions that needed consensus. Okay, so there is two question, which is why do you think that the approach used by Amida failed, and compare the previous and current decision making approach used by the team. So the first question is why do you think that the approach used by Amida failed? So the answer is, I think the approach used by Amida is wrong and poses a problem between Amida and the team. Amida did not use the right approach as a decision from the majority, a decision by consensus, and a decision by unanimous consent, which for me, making a decision this way is more agreeable and more harmonious because it gets approval from many parties. If the decision made does not have such an approach, then it is certain that it will bring negative results or cause misunderstanding in the organizations. Question 2. Compare the previous and current decision making approach used by the team. Differences can be seen from the previous and the current decision making approach. The previous decision making approach was ineffective. After that, they proposed a new approach of decision making which is a success. The changes of the decision making approach from authora- authoritarian to consensus or consultative allowed the team to reach an agreement on critical decision faster and reinforce the importance of allowing time for those decisions that needed consensus. The first approach was an independent approach where only one individual in charge in decisions without input or receive little input from group members. This approach ignores and impairs creative solution and expertise from other group members, while the second approach, inclusive participations, engages and empower the group or teamwork where everyone has opportunity to give ideas in making decisions, and this indirectly increases cooperation of teamworks. Besides, consensus decision making from majority rule in that the minority feels heard here and supports the ultimate decision. Group member participation is from majority rule in that the minority group member participation is highly encouraged where communication is sufficiently open and supportive to make everyone feel that they have an opportunity to influence the decision. This could be the reason of why everyone is happy with this approach. So, the conclusion is when you are making a critical decision, you have to understand how it's going to be interpreted for all points of view, not just your point of view, not just the person you are talking to, but the people that aren't in the room, everybody else, by Ben Horowitz. Thank you.